welcome. I'm Peggy. And I ask you to just pull up a chair and don't go away, because I have a wonderful gentleman here, someone I have great respect for, and he's given us some of his precious time. Senator Larry Martin is here to visit with us, and I just said, Senator Martin, talk about the things you think that we as Americans, and especially as citizens of our state, need to be aware of. So this is his time. And I want to, he has, from Pickens, in case we didn't know, and he has been a member of the South Carolina Senate, I guess, since '92. And he is now the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Now, all that aside, I want to read something to you, and it goes back to ancient Greece. And it's very important for us to remember this. A democracy cannot exist permanently as apathy among its citizens increases. The democracy collapses to a dependency and then to bondage. That was written a long time ago. And we need to put on our thinking caps. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you,
God bless
Peggy.
you for coming.
You're very gracious to have me.
Now, you're an important man, and you've taken a little time to be with us. Where do you want to begin?
Well, Tuesday we will begin debate in the Senate on Senate Bill 3, which is the domestic violence legislation. And it's my hope that we can pass a bill. It's not going to eliminate domestic violence in South Carolina, but that will address it more aggressively than we've done in the past. We chronically have the highest death rate of any state in the country.
That's shocking.
And it's not just 1 year, 2 years anomaly. It's every year that we rank among the highest in the 50
nation.
States. Our death rate's atrocious. The incident rate of domestic violence, you don't go a day without seeing a killing here in the upstate, let alone the entire state. It's almost an epidemic.
But it's mostly against women, but it can also be against men.
We had one just last week down at the University of South Carolina where an ex-wife killed a professor down there, and that happens. Now,
of course, that made big news.
It did, and that's a little less frequent. But what we're trying to do with the bill, just to get right to that, is to place some degrees of domestic violence so that prosecutors have more tools in their toolbox in dealing with repeat offenders and the seriousness as it escalates. Instead of just having a domestic violence offense and then a high and aggravated domestic violence offense, we would have third degree, second degree, first degree, and then the high and aggravated nature offense. And the scale would go from 30 days with probation and counseling and that kind of thing all the way up to 20 years for the high and aggravated. So it gives prosecutors more tools. We also have a no contact order in there when someone's released from jail after service of their sentence and the victim is just scared to death. They're going to come back and find them again.
But somehow that never works. I mean, they get this, you can't call them, you can't go near them, but
they do it anyway.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I tell you, the big problem with domestic violence, and law enforcement encounters this quite a bit, is the victim will not cooperate.
Well, they're frightened.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're frightened.
They're frightened independent, and they're dependent on their abuser. So what we are trying to do is to deal with it on the front end with counseling, that kind of thing. The governor has set up a task force, and I've been asked.
That's new, isn't it?
That's new. She's very committed. She's supportive of our bill. The House has a bill that it's working on, along with us working on this one in the Senate. And I'll be frank, the bill also includes a provision that I inserted into it. It's come out of committee very strong and support in the Judiciary Committee that would ban the accuser or the abuser, of possessing a weapon, if he's convicted of domestic violence, or she, and if they're also placed under an order of protection, which would be before a conviction, but it would be a hearing that would be held in front of a judge. The person is a threat, they've been arrested, they're a threat to the individual. They're given right to counsel, they're given right to defend themselves in the hearing, but a judge would be able to say, look, you cannot possess a weapon during the next months before this trial is had and we determine if you're guilty or not. And that's when it's needed the most.
But once they are proven guilty,
then they lose their
then
weapon.
they lose the right to have a weapon for how long?
10 years
For
under
10
state
years.
law. And I would add that under current federal law, the federal law bans possession or the purchase of a weapon for life.
Now that means they can't go and buy a weapon.
That's right. They can't buy one, they can't possess one. If they're caught with one by a federal agent, say they come into some federal charge for some reason, they will be prosecuted under federal law. Problem is, we can't prosecute somebody under federal law. State and local governments.
I know it gets complicated.
Yeah, they can't. We can't do that. Matter of fact, some people have said, Senator Martin, why are you even proposing this? We've already got the federal law. Well, we can't enforce it, and the federal law won't enforce it unless they come in to play with it. So we're trying to enact a common sense way to deal with it. Law enforcement tells us, look, don't put us in the position of having to take these guns or having to go in and do a search, those kind of things. So what we're trying to do, Peggy, is put the burden foursquare on the defendant. You've got to place your guns with a third party, whoever you choose to place them with, and if you're caught with them, you will be charged with a felony, and upon conviction, you will go to jail for 3 years for that offense. So get rid of your guns.
Now, this is different from what we have on the law now.
It is.
We don't have anything like that
We don't have
now.
anything.
If somebody is caught, for instance, and reported as doing a violent act
Right.
against their girlfriend, wife, whatever, there's no law that keeps them from possessing a weapon.
Not state law.
Not
no.
now.
Not now. No.
But this would change that.
It would change it, and it would make, we think, a difference in our death rate. Now, is it going to eliminate it? No.
I guess
Because some
I
people
have
are
to
just going
say
to thumb their
this.
nose at it.
I am playing the devil's advocate. But you and I both know that somebody who is determined to do wrong is going to find a way to do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a case in the paper this week where a fella threw an ashtray at his wife, missed, and hit his small child and killed him with the ashtray, and is in jail for manslaughter. And that happens every day. And, yeah, there are other ways, but of the 46 deaths in South Carolina from domestic violence in 2013, 36 of those were by a gun.
A gun, yeah.
And of those, Peggy, more than half were repeat offenders. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this death rate down, and the repeat offenders are what we're primarily targeting, but we're also, as other states have done, Texas has this law. Louisiana, we copied the Louisiana statute. Governor General signed it into law in Texas, in Louisiana last spring. Tennessee has the law. Tennessee's went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld it last May. It was called the Castleman case. West Virginia has it. Probably about 18 states have some variation of the law, but here's the important point, more than 30 some odd states, I think around 35, have a provision in their laws that if the person is placed under a domestic order. Now, it's not a restraining order that's typically in a divorce decree. Stay away from somebody. It's not a no-contact order. It's an order of protection for which you're entitled to counsel and a defense in front of a judge. And then if that order is placed on you to stay, that you're a threat to somebody, and usually when the initial arrest has occurred, those kind of things, then you would be told, look, you can't have your weapons in your possession. And and in their extreme cases, and a judge can do that now in South Carolina, tell the person, look, you've got to put your guns with the local police, or we're not going to let you out of jail on bail.
That if they give the guns to the police, but you said something that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you said they could choose a third party,
a relative or somebody.
All right, so you're not going to go out and choose your enemy. You're going to choose your buddy.
Well, that's true.
Who's going to say, well, he's got a gun now.
Well, that's the way the federal law is operating that way. But here's the deal, Peggy. Think about it. If law enforcement takes the weapon, they've got to go do a search in every instance. They've got to search your cars, your house, and they've got and that's a pretty involved process.
They're pretty busy people. Yeah.
So the federal law doesn't require that, and I'm not going to require that of our state law.
All right.
The burden is on these people. Are you going to face a felony instead of facing a 30-day conviction? You're going to go to jail for 3 years just for the mere possession. Now, if you use it on somebody, Lord help you, it's only going to be worse.
So we're trying to cut back on our death rate and the violence that goes on in our state by taking these steps.
In a common sense.
And we have to go to a quick break, but is there a number or anything about that bill? If somebody wants to call their representative and say, I want to see this done.
Senate Bill 3, and hopefully by the time this airs, it will be over in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
And then they can go to the state website and call their House
Or you
member.
can just call and say, that you're in favor of having this domestic violence passed.
Exactly, the domestic violence
and it's
bill.
number 3.
Senate Bill 3.
All right, Senate Bill 3. We'll be right back.